YouTube or whatever, and then I'll go back to you guys. So just give us a second here.
Dan, the last time that we gave a raise, it was 1% in 2016.
Okay, so let's see. YouTube or whatever, and then I'll, okay, so hang on a second here. I'll go back to you guys. So just give us a second.
Dan, the last time that
Okay, there we go. Okay, so we're ready to start. So we're calling this meeting to order at 3:30. So Tully, Jan Tully, Paul Schweikert,
here,
and then Jesse Nihas is not going to be able to join us. That's what he told me. So first thing we need to do is approve the minutes of November 4th, 2020.
I'll second it. Go ahead, Jan.
Okay, so Tully and then Schweikert. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thanks. So that passes. So let me talk to you about the treasurer's report. I gave you a printout of everything. I'm trying to get you as close to the end of the year because this is only the 29th. We should have a balance of approximately $273, $787, and 46 cents when everything clears. That'll take us through the end of the year. Plus we have those two CDs, one just about $5,100, the other one about $1,000. I renewed that CD for 12 months. The rate, are you ready, is 0.01%. So it's like next to nothing, but I did renew it. Just because we had to do something with it. It came due in November. I figured maybe in a year it looks better. Our total balance is $279,787. The difference between those is what's in the endowment. The difference between 273 and 279. So it's not too much in the endowment. Before we go to that, I want to talk to you about one more thing in that endowment. When I took over, the endowment money was still in the general fund and not moved over to the endowment. I never adjusted for 19 because I wanted to make sure I was caught up on what we were doing. We have about just under $1,800 in the general revenue that's actually endowment money. It was designated towards the endowment. So I need to move that over for 19. And then this year it's $3,774.90. So I'm going to move over those two amounts into the endowment, and then I'll place it into a CD or some kind of an investment. Is that okay with you guys?
That makes sense. We should have it in its own account.
Yes,
Yeah.
I agree.
Okay, so I'm going to move over $3,774.90. 3774.90, and then that's this year. And then let me give you last year's just so you have it, and then I'll give you a total. Last year it was just under 18, 1797.84 cents. So I'm going to move those two amounts over. I'll give you guys a summary and an email on it, but I just wanted to kind of update you on where we were. I also want to talk to you a little bit about what we spent last year and kind of where we are. Our expenses are, you ready? $77,926 more than 19. And part of that comes from the legacy of 19, because if you recall, we had a bill from Nix for tree removal of $16,000 that actually occurred in 18, but I didn't get the bill until 19. I also had to pay Turfscape about $7,600 for the wrap up of their bills related to landscaping from 18 that weren't paid. So then I inherited those. It was like a cleanup and some other stuff. So 30% of basically our increase in costs are related to those legacy costs from the previous year that pulled over. We also spent $28,000 on that piece of equipment, the Toro. It's about 35% more. So the 28 on that. We bought new signs. We did the backhoe repair. We replaced the furnace. It's like a who's who of what happened, right? We bought an iPad and kind of fixed that computer, which is good for him because the other one died and actually caught on fire. We bought some paint and did some painting. We have some more to go. And we also had some increase in cost of health insurance, which I've talked to you about. The health insurance and wages, we're looking at like $12,000 in there. Health insurance, we had some bills from the previous year that I paid in this year. So I literally paid 13 months of health insurance in 2020, but we only had 12 months. So I wanted to kind of review with you where we are with that $77,900. I don't think it's the end of the world, because I think some of that came from 18, and then the rest of it came from the logical things that we purchased. We had to fix the furnace. The new signs look great. They were about $3,500. The backhoe repair, had to do it. iPad was a good choice. And then this health insurance is just what bothers me. So there's no need to repair.
I don't think there's any expenditure that's frivolous. They were all
No.
necessities. And the other thing, if you're saying that our balance is only 6,000 less, we kind of even out.
Yeah,
That's the point. You know, we caught up from 18 and 19, and 20 now is over almost. That
Yeah.
will start out with 2021 with good hands on it.
yeah.
And-
And remember, we increased the proportionate share of all the communities from about 126 to 150. And
Right.
so that's part of it, Jan, that went into that, but we are pretty close to where we were.
But you know, we had to increase it. If you look at costs go up.
Yep.
So who's going to bear the cost? We're trying to make it that the residents who use the cemetery don't bear all the increase. That's not right. So
And then, so while we're talking about costs, it's kind of like my new business on my list here, and I'm going to jump around a bit. Medical Mutual. So our Medical Mutual now was about $22.25 a month for a family plan for Dan. It's going up to $24.74. It's about an 8% increase. I thought it was crazy. So I've been working with the Summit County plan to try to get us under that. Sagamore is on that plan. A family plan is about $19.50 a month. We're going to pay $24.74. If I can save $400, it saves us $4,800 in a year. If I can save $500 a month, I'm talking $6,000. I mean, I'd be happy with $400 less. I have been chasing these people literally day and night. The last update I got from them was this afternoon that said they're going to give me a quote next week. They can't give me a quote this week. We will not switch the insurance until February. Dan had to go through kind of a whole profile. There's a profile you have to go through called fire form. He did all that. They have to rate us essentially, but we have to be able to save. You know, $2,500 a month is ridiculous. We're basically paying $30,000 a year for health insurance for one person. It's crazy.
well, that's part of the problem. It's one person. The more people you have, the better the rates are. So it's like you slit your own wrist because you're not going to hire people when you don't need them. But the insurance companies look at it's like any other aggregation. The more you have, the better rate I'll give you.
Well, we're going to be in the Summit County plan. So while we're rated, we're within a plan of whatever, 3,000 employees or however many they have. So
Right.
that should help our rate. Is Macedonia on its own, or do they go on to Summit County?
They're on their own.
Okay.
I'll have to double check. We use a company that helps us. So Annette would know.
Okay. I will, I am hoping that we get a decent rate. I basically had to give them all the information we had on our rate, but I do think that, you know, an 8% increase at, you know, basically $2,500 a month is ridiculous.
But going with an aggregate is, you know, going with Summit County, it is a better idea. As long as the plan coverage is pretty similar, it's always better to go that route.
Yeah, it is. It's very similar, but I want to give Dan a little bit of transition. So I should have something for you next week. I'll share it with you. I think Rebelle's coming on. Paul's going to be going off. I will make sure that, Paul, you have the same information so everybody knows what's happening on that.
So before we go into the rest of the new business, do you want us to approve your treasurer's report?
Well, you can. I didn't give it to you really in writing, except I gave you a printout from my QuickBooks. So you want to, if you want to approve that, it's 273, 787.46 is our balance, plus what we have in the endowment, bringing us to 279, 787.46.
I'll make a motion to approve as presented.
Okay,
I'll second.
thanks. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thanks. Sorry.
What if one of us votes no? Oh my God,
A lot of
I
it's
don't know.
we've never had that.
I don't know. Let's hope that doesn't happen. The internet, oh my. So I got that guy to mark our utilities. That was a couple $100. And then we convinced the contractor to drill it in. So it is down the middle of the driveway. It pops up right by the building. There's a little green thing there. They are going to be hooking it up to the building on the 4th. Dan has scheduled it. So on the 4th, we should be cutting the string to Windstream and getting on Spectrum and saving ourselves $100 a month, which is great.
That is really good.
Yeah, I don't know why it took so long, but those contractors, nobody wanted to go down a cemetery because they thought they were going to hit a grave. And then they thought they were going to hit utilities, and it's just crazy, but we're there. And the fee schedule I attached, which is the 3%, I kind of rounded them as I went through, but I basically gave a 3% around the board. I do want to share with you the website a little bit. Unfortunately, I don't know if I can see this. So let me see if I can see.
Oh, that's fake. It doesn't look anything like that.
Yeah, no, that's real, man.
No, man,
I took that picture.
it's great.
Okay, so this is kind of what it looks like. I think can you see it as I'm moving it?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so this is just a picture I took. It kind of gives you a home, a little bit of our history. This is kind of how it looks right now. A little bit of our history. There's a search mechanism on here. I don't know if you ever did this, Find a Grave, but a lot of our graves are on Find a Grave, so you can find a grave that way. So we have a link on here.
Okay. Do all cemeteries use it? Because I was trying to find a grave in Twinsburg. And when I clicked on the cemetery, it took me to Find a Grave.
No, all cemeteries don't use it, but many do. Now, what I'm going to be doing here, right where it says cemetery deeds, I have a scan of all the deeds in the last 3 or 4 books. I'm going to put them up. We're
Okay.
also going to put up in like an update every couple of months, the complete spreadsheet of what grave, who's in what grave, where it is, all the maps, and the information about what they paid for the grave and when they bought it. I mean, I hope that's okay. I mean, it is a public record. I'm just going to make it available here. And
Now, I
then,
think that's great because I still cannot find Greg's parents' graves, even though they're buried there
in Northfield?
in Twinsburg.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So Find a Grave doesn't find them. And I'm like, okay. Otherwise, I'm just going to spend a lot of time walking around the 2 lakes trying to figure out where they're at. But
Yeah, and the good thing about this is if we post that, it will give you the section, the grave. It'll give you all those things. So you should be able to see exactly where any grave is, plus our maps. So John Zaccardelli scanned all our maps. So we have them in a virtual form. There's a map to our cemetery. There's the cemetery deeds themselves. This is kind of a dummy thing here. I went through training last week. It should be pretty good, and we'll be in pretty good shape.
and when
So
do you expect that to be released to the public?
it will be sometime, they say 5 weeks from training. I think probably by the middle of the month, I should be able to put it live. I also then, if you remember, reserved nmcemetery.com. So we're going to have our own website.
That's
So
cool.
that means this thing will be linked to our own website. And then in live time, I can put up news and information. So I plan to put up all the information about, a change of season, the veterans when they were there, marking all the graves, the VFW. I have a lot of pictures of that. So we'll be able to put all those events on there. And then all the cities and the city, the village, and the townships can all link to it. So we won't have a problem. And then Dan and I want to take those forms, which are really out of date, and just put them on here live. so that if somebody needs to sell a grave or transfer a grave, or just get a grave, they're able to just see how that all works, a price list and all that.
That's a good idea. That is really good. What I'd like to see at some point too is reach out to the school.
Okay.
And the only reason I bring that up, who's buried in that cemetery that the school people might want to know about? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Do the kids know what Lee Eaton School is named after, who it's named after? No.
Yeah.
Do they understand Eaton Estates? Do they I mean, we got some pretty important people buried in that cemetery, and historically nobody in this community knows. My sister goes, "What?" And I go, "Yeah, okay, you paid attention." And I just think it's what you're doing is perfect. It's bringing us into, well, we should have been here probably 10 years ago, but bringing us into the real electronic age. It's a good job. Thank you.
No
Yeah.
problem. Yep, no
I
problem.
agree.
Okay, so a couple things we are doing is we got to get on that fence in the spring. We're ready to do that. We got a little bit of tree work to do. A lot of trees came down in that storm with the heavy
yeah.
snows. So we had some damage. And we have that one really weird tree over in the old section that literally the branch is being held on by a cable. So we have to get that down. And Nix is going to help us look at that and give us an estimate on it. They have looked at it. I told them I don't care when they cut it. They can cut it in the winter if that works. But we do have to get rid of that tree for sure. Then a couple others just to kind of trim up. Shouldn't be as bad as it was in the past. Dan cleaned up what we had. And then our cleanup crew from Tucker was great. They picked up all those sticks, and I mean a ton of sticks. And because we had a lot of branches down. And then Dan cut up the wood and got rid of the big pieces. And then they picked up the small stuff. So it's all cleaned up. The cemetery actually looks pretty good. Two issues that we should think about for next year, pavement and whether we want to go for like an issue 2 grant, because we were going to need all the city, the townships and the village to at least sign a resolution in support. I would like to try to attribute their contribution to their annual fee, which would contribute towards this, if that makes sense, because we're probably looking about 80,000, maybe 80 or 90,000 to repave everything. Wasn't that the number, Paul?
Yeah.
So if it's between 80 and 90,000 and we seek 50% in grant and 50% in contribution, each of the communities would contribute towards that, but we would use their annual contribution towards that, if that makes sense. It wouldn't be like they would be giving us any more money. They would just be supporting it, and their contribution would be part of their annual contribution. Does that make sense? I'm trying to get away without them having to give us any different money.
Yeah, it makes sense is that you're going to go for a grant, 50% will have to be funded, but it'll be coming out of the annual money given by the communities.
Yeah. And then every community is going to have to pass a resolution in support of our application, and that application is due in June. So that's why I want to get prepared so we can get the engineer out, get it planned, and then get that contribution. Paul, this was a great idea to try to get them to pave it as a public road.
Yeah, and then if you can get the grant, you need the resolutions passed before you, because it needs to go with the grant like we do.
Yep.
So
And
if you can just get it together, and we'll get it over to Mark so we can get Macedonia's resolution on the table and get that passed.
Can you have Jeff just give all 4 the same resolution?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what I want to do is get that ready to go. So the engineer has kind of planned it out and say like April, and then get that to everybody. And then we have our annual meeting in May. And then that's kind of teed up with each of the communities ready to go. So you guys can pass it sometime in May, early June, and we can put the application in. Because I think paving that in another, that would give us, that's almost 2 years, a year and a half till we pave. But boy, that would be perfect, because it really is going to need it.
If you apply for the grant, how long, I mean, I know sometimes they take forever. How long before we get an approval, and when do you get the money?
November. It's in November.
Yeah, you know in November, and then you can use the money starting in July of the following year.
Okay,
So we go out and bid it, and then award the bid, and then they would start in June, July, and then they could pave it at any point. And hopefully, it's a small job, but it's something that somebody can fit in.
right.
Okay, so that,
Well, and it'd be nice if we could get it done. We can use it, we can't use it before July.
no, and that wouldn't be July of 21, that'd be July of 22, yeah.
Yeah, my only thought is it's, if we could have had it done before Memorial Day, but,
No. We're a year off again.
okay. If you can get Mark can get that piece together, we can get that out. I'd really like to see, so it's passed, so that it's recognized at the annual meeting,
Yeah,
that every community has passed it. So if we can get it so we can pass it like in early May, because our meetings usually, I don't know if we're at the first or the second. But
okay.
that way I'd like us all to be on the same page.
Okay, I will work on that. You guys know the little work that we're doing to get the new cab and a little plow
Right,
because our truck isn't working. And the truck works, but the plow doesn't lift. I think that's another one to go on Gov Deals at some point here, and we can put that up for sale. Last thing is Dan and wages, and I went back and looked at that. So last year we gave him a 3% raise. The last time you gave a raise was in 17. You guys gave him 1%. So in 16 he was being paid $20.99 an hour. He's now at 21.20. He was at 21.20 in 19. 17, 18, 19, 20. He was paid this year at the rate of, 21.84. We gave him 3%. So I just want to talk to you about if you want to do anything with it. I thought it was better to talk to the current trustees than wait till next year. I am very dependent on him. He's on vacation these 2 weeks. However, he came in for a funeral today and he's coming in for a funeral tomorrow because those kind of operate quick. And I'm pretty much dependent on him to dig a hole and to accommodate that. I've tried to figure out how to kind of train myself and be able to kind of run the tasks that he runs. So that's why I'm changing the cable, because I want the phone forwarded to my cell phone so I can answer it too. And, I'm still dependent on one of the townships to come in and dig a hole or whatever if I can't get him to do it.
No, I think that we ought to give him 3%. I mean, he's been working harder this year than ever before. So, and if,
Yeah. I would agree. I just looked at the math of it, and 3% would put him over at 22
Yeah.
an hour.
And it'll amount to about $1,750 a year on a legacy basis, just calculating it. $1,750, kind of loading that number in. That's what it's going to cost you. So it's under a couple thousand, but I do think he's been hustling this year. And we haven't really moved his wages. And I think this year we should, because I think he's been hustling a bit.
Yeah, I have no problem with the 3%. In fact, I would make a proposal that we adopt a 3% increase for Dan.
Okay.
I'll second that motion.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And opposed? I guess there is no opposition. Hey, thanks. I think that's the right thing to do because I think he's been doing a good job. And, we got a lot to do. Overall goals for next year are work on the pavement, make sure we get that. We have to get that fence done. That has been a struggle. We've got parts of it painted. We got to get more. We got to get it all done by Memorial Day. I've told Dan that. I want to roll out a wage increase for him. As I say to him, we are going to get this done. But overall, the cemetery is in pretty good shape. We've done pretty well this year. Our total sales Let me get that for you. I had it up here and I just need a second here. Sorry, this fiscal year. Okay, so we've sold about $19,972 in graves, almost 20,000. I think that's pretty good. We've had about 8,700 in foundations, headstones. We've had $15,600 in burials of regular burials, and ashes, we've seen an increase, 9,763. So, you know, we've had basically, including the 3,700 in endowment, $57,841. That's pretty good. Some of that is endowment, $3,700 of that is endowment, but we've had over $50,000 of sales. That's pretty good. So, you know, we're doing okay. So I appreciate everything. I'm open to any questions you guys might have.
Oh, I think it's a great year, and I want to thank you for getting a lot of these some of the older issues resolved. I think it's worked out pretty good.
Thanks.
Yep, that was a good idea.
Yeah, I think we're moving along. I mean, I don't think we're in too bad a shape.
Well, and I think to the community, we're showing that, yeah, you don't want to go on and say, look how many graves and how many burials, but that we're keeping pace with the community and we're not coming to them asking for money, because we're actually doing a pretty good job of keeping it whole.
Yeah. Okay, so I think that's it. If you guys are good, so we can adjourn at 3:56, if you guys are good with that.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
All
No,
right,
I
so we will
gotta-
schedule a meeting.
I gotta think about it. I don't know. Okay, have a very happy new year. Paul, what am I gonna do without you next year?
Well, you're going to have to suffer through it. I think you'll be fine.
Yeah, just show up all the time, will you? If we
Yeah.
do it this way, you can, right?
Hopefully we'll get back to normal.
Mr. Snow, you've done a heck of a job
Okay.
coming in a horrible situation and taking things by the rein and leading us through success. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you. I appreciate all your help throughout the year, because I drop checks for you guys all the time and you're very helpful. But I think we're starting to really move. I think the website's going to help. I think the Plow on Dan's thing is going to help. And I'm hoping to kind of really motivate him to get going this year and help me get that fence done.
Yes.
And, you know, by Memorial Day,